Well, hello one and all, welcome to Seen Through Glass. Welcome to a beautiful morning here in Portugal. You find me sitting inside the new Range Rover Sport SV. And I just got a coffee from La Hanna, an awesome spot down here in the Algarve. It's right on the south coast of Portugal. But today's video is not themed around coffee. We're here to check out this car. I thought I'd put it through its paces, taking it on a slightly different adventure. Still a kind of food-related adventure, although this is a drink. Anyway, I'm not getting caught up in the details. But last year I spent quite a bit of time in Portugal, including a family holiday in Lisbon over the summer. And during that trip, I became obsessed with Pastel de Nata. It's one of Portugal's most famous dishes. You can get them all over the world, but they never taste quite as good as they do here in Portugal. So today, I'm gonna get my fix by taking this car on a 500-kilometer round trip to Lisbon to check out what Portugal voted as the best Pastel de Nata in the country. It's going to be a good adventure, this one, and I think a super interesting one. Not just because I'm going to be trying Portugal's best Pastel de Nata, because I think there's a lot to figure out about this car. First, I've got to say thank you to the Range Rover PR team for letting me do this. No pun intended, but I'm definitely going off the beaten track when it comes to this kind of international press drive, and I'm slightly pushing my sort of time allocation with this car. I've got to drop this thing back here in the Algarve at 5:30 this evening. It's currently saying that I'm going to get to this cafeteria in Lisbon at around 12:30, which sounds like plenty of time. But I'm going to have another 270 kilometers back from Lisbon, and I want to take the non-direct kind of off motorway route. Then you add into the fact that I'm going to be filming and having to pull over to get photos and things like that. It could start to get a little bit tight later in the day. But I do want to take my time and understand this thing because, well, last year I lived with the Range Rover Sport in the south of France for about 6 weeks. I didn't absolutely love it. I kind of left that trip thinking, well, if I was ever to get a Range Rover, I'd probably go for the big one, the proper one. And right now I'm living with a Jaguar F-Pace SVR, which is this car's predecessor's little brother or cousin. So I feel like I've got some good points of reference for this thing. But well, just like the standard new Range Rover Sport, so much of this car has changed under the skin. So it should be super different from, well, yeah, standard Range Rover Sport, from its predecessor, the Range Rover Sport SVR, and from my Jaguar F-Pace SVR. I decided we would take the motorway up to Lisbon today and then use the back roads on the way back because, well, it allows me to get straight into analysing what I think is a key aspect of this car, its fuel economy. Now bear with me, because I realise it's not the most exciting part about a new SV product from Range Rover, but if you're thinking about buying one of these cars, you're probably quite intrigued, because this car's predecessor had famously bad fuel economy. Like really poor, and actually the F-Pace SVR, which I'm using also, just not great. That's because they both used the, I think, iconic, fire-breathing 5-litre V8s from JLR, from Jaguar Land Rover. That engine is gone for this car. It's been replaced by a smaller 4.4-litre V8 from BMW. Now, downsizing isn't always bad because we've got a massive step up in power. This thing has well over 600 horsepower, which is like a 60 horsepower increase from the old car. But hopefully that smaller engine will mean less emissions and be slightly more frugal when it comes to its fuel consumption. Initial impressions are, though, that that's not the case. I mean, I've probably done 80, maybe 90 kilometers so far today, and the majority of that has just been sitting here on an empty motorway, 120 kilometers an hour, so not that fast. And I'm averaging, I'm hovering at 20 mpg. I think I'm actually at like 19.9. It's struggling to go over 20 mpg. That's not fantastic. We've got a long way to go, 190 kilometers ahead of us. It could creep up. The concerning thing is it's actually creeping down. Sitting here with all the cruise control and driver assistance systems on, so, I mean, I guess that's why Range Rover do a hybrid one of these. Because if you care about fuel economy, you're not going to get this one. Well, we've made it to the outskirts of Lisbon, and before we get to the cafeteria of the day, we've stopped for fuel. Now, when you come on these press events, you get very glamorous refueling assistance. It's actually been a support vehicle with me the whole day. That's the lovely Hannah, who's currently filling up the car. I did offer to do it myself, but she's like, no, that's why I'm here. I'm not just a lazy, pretentious Range Rover driver that's made somebody else fill up my car. But yeah, long story short, we did 308 kilometers since we left the hotel to this point here. The car had just under half a tank, which suggests it's going to have a very big tank because we averaged just under 21 mpg. I think our average speed was 105 kilometers an hour. So yeah, it'd be an expensive car not just to buy, got to come back to that later, but also to run. So looks like we're all full up. So let's head on down into town, get ourselves some natas, some pastéis de natas. So my destination for the day was Confeitaria da Gloria. I'm probably butchering that pronunciation, but that's where won the best Pastel de Nata at the prestigious Cooks Congress in September last year. The winner was decided after a blind taste test was carried out by a panel of judges. If you don't know, the Pastel de Nata, or Portuguese tart, is over 300 years old and is simply made with egg yolks, sugar and flaky pastry. It can be enjoyed any time of the day. I've secured the goodies. Is 3 too many? I feel like 3 might not be enough. You know, I am way too excited for this moment. By the way, the car does look pretty good, I think, parked up in the sun like that. But anyway, let's stop messing around and taste test these. Could they truly be the best? I mean, how do you decide? I don't know, but well, apparently according to a blind taste test, that's how you decide. I'm launching in, people. Oh yeah, oh yeah. The pastry, so crisp, custard so creamy, not too sweet. I've had some where you're like, oh, it's just too sweet. It's just the right, quite big. I usually like sort of a couple of bites. It's going to be 3 or 4 bites, but I'm not complaining because they're so good. For me, it's the pastry that makes this. The pastry is the one because the custard is super creamy and fresh. And it's 12:30, so these would have come out of the oven God knows what time this morning. Oh my God. Worth the road trip. I know I'm supposed to be testing that car, but this is why I came to Portugal. This is why I said yes to this invitation. Oh, I'm going to need more of these. Now, the only problem with consuming all of these pasties, these tarts, was I'm not really helping with the whole sort of weight loss vibe of this car. You might be laughing thinking weight loss on a 2.5 ton Range Rover Sport, but seriously, the carbon wheels, the carbon ceramics, a few other carbon components of this car have reduced the weight by like, I think 75 or nearly 80 kilos, which I've just put back on by consuming all of these. I've even got a takeaway box, take some back to my wife. That's always an important mission. Now look, you may have thought I was being a tad negative, or that the fuel economy stats were a little bit negative. But I have some positives to share about this car. And first of those being the ride quality in this vehicle. My God. I mean, any SVR badged JLR product previously would always have very firm ride, and I hate continuing to compare this car with the F-Pace SVR, but it's a very good point of reference for me, and that thing is so firm. It's one of the reasons that I've been put off it, while this has this super clever damping system, which is kind of similar to a McLaren supercars, which when we get going later will mean that the car remains super flat, but in and around town means that it can be very comfortable. And so yeah, I've been enjoying the back streets of Lisbon, the outskirts of Lisbon, and the motorways like just, well, it still feels like a Range Rover. So every now and again I get a hint of the performance that's hiding underneath, but actually it's quiet, it's refined, it's a nice place to be. In general, I'm finding it a much more pleasurable driving experience, even at mundane speeds, than the standard P530 Range Rover Sport, which I used last year. That thing always felt a bit wallowy, about wishy-washy on the tighter south of France roads. I just, even with the rear wheel steer. Where this thing, yeah, it's all a lot tighter, and I'm enjoying that. You might think I'm going a bit over the top, but I'm actually going to use this luggage net to tie down my suitcase, because I've seen footage of this car out on track from earlier this week, and it can hustle. I don't really want my things flying everywhere, especially not my Carl Friedrich Carry-On X. Carl Friedrich are very kindly sponsored this part of the video. If you watch this channel regularly, you know that I've been working with these guys for, well over a year now. They sent me this, also their check-in bag, and well, immediately I just fell in love with these products. I travel so much, the last thing I ever want to be worried about or thinking about is suitcases, because I basically live out of them. This thing is my go-to bag now whenever I'm traveling. I'm only here for one night, so it doesn't really have many clothes. I've got tripods and bits of equipment in here. It is so sturdy, extremely good build quality, but super light. Not only that, we have some lovely leather details. It's smart, it's elegant, it befits a car like this, which is why I want to protect it. So I'm going to be shoving it under here, so that now, even if I go a little fast, this thing should stay fairly in place. Now, I've got to be honest with you, I've been really impressed by this car today. I've just enjoyed spending time in it. We've done 464.7 kilometers so far. It's just been easy. Okay, fine, look, it's a Range Rover. It should be able to do a long distance road trip with its eyes closed. But as I said before, well, I found this a far more enjoyable experience than living with a P530 last year. Just this short drive in comparison to the couple of thousand miles that I did in that car, it's been so much better. But over and above that, this is a Range Rover Sport. It's an SV. It has near 640 horsepower and supposedly the dynamic ability to actually go out on track. So let's see what happens. Now we're out on a twisty back road. Let's start to turn things up. There's a very inviting SV button on the steering wheel, which I'm not going to push yet, because that does literally turn the thing up to 11. I pressed it by accident earlier, and it was like, make sure everything's tied down. Be careful. So for now, I'm just going to go into here, go into dynamic. I just don't love that everything is in this screen now. I just want a few buttons. I want to have to push dynamic mode or drive mode select or something. That's just, But anyway, as you can see, it's kind of selected everything for me. The exhaust is now on. It's pretty quiet, this car, but we won't knock it for that. I mean, yeah, I'm not going to press anything else. Why am I going to mess around with it? So let's just put into the sportier gearbox setting. We've got 11 kilometers till our next turning. Let's see what happens. Now, the torque from this engine is delightful, but for me, the kind of slight revelation's been, well, what happened there? That wasn't a revelation, that was quite terrifying. This safety system's got involved. I thought I turned everything down. Let's pretend like that didn't happen. Continue. The surprise has been the front end, the steering feel, the directness of it. It almost feels like the front end is too urgent. You kind of sometimes wait for the rest of the car to catch up, and maybe that's what happened in that corner. We went into a bit of a dip, and maybe the car had a bit of a panic attack, because yeah, you can position the front and then wait for the weight to kind of follow you round, but it does go round a corner. I mean, it really is quite enjoyable. And those, I'm getting loads of traction interference. Okay, hold on a sec, that's what was going on. The traction control's gone insane. So come into here. A DSC is set to on in certain driver mode, so I can only go off. I can't do, that doesn't make sense. Where's my track? Okay, let's go SV mode. There we go. There's a track stability control, because I'm guessing that's going to be somewhere in the middle. Ensure no heavy cargo or roof load. There you go, that's that warning I got again. My entire dashboard is completely changed. Let's see, maybe that's going to sharpen things up. Let's hope I don't end up in a tree. I'm also going to do flappy paddle gearbox, but yeah, now we're getting some serious response from the throttle. The carbon ceramic brakes, which I thought were just stupid, are now coming into their own out here, I have to say. And look, I don't think for a second that owners of this car are going to take it on track, or even just wake up on a Sunday morning and go, I'm going to go for a bit of a blast in the SV. But they might find themselves out here. If you've got a moment alone, or even if you're with the family and you've gone, I don't want to go on the motorway, or maybe your route to the hotel is a bit of a backcountry road, this is the hunting ground. And look how capable it is. Firstly, it eats up the bumps. The only other car that reminds me of this is the Purosangue. The way that you can just carry the speed along the road and the bumps don't upset you that much. You feel them, but but it is nowhere near as firm as other big sporty SUVs. This thing just wants to fly. Oh, you can go way too fast in this car. Like, you actually need to remind yourself, hold on a sec, we're trying to slow 2.5 tons down here, but the way it turns into the corner just kids you that you can do whatever you like. I genuinely believe very few sports cars could get away from me in one of these, just because of the amount of speed I can carry over the bumps. Oh, and it's still comfortable somehow. This thing gets better and better by the second. I adore it. Now, it's not unheard of for me to get a little bit overexcited when I drive a car briskly on a beautiful road in a country that I love, and I'm surprised by its performance. So let's take a breather. Let's take a step back for a second, because, you know, I adore it. That feels a bit strong. This car is mighty impressive, but there are some buts. With all of this performance, I actually think the car now is a little bit too subdued. Like, it's quite serious, this thing, and I do miss the lairiness of the old car, even just based on visuals. The paint, the carbon wheels, the in-your-face calipers of this spec, okay, they're going some way to make you think, oh, that looks impressive, but it's not enough in my mind. This thing is very good in all walks of life, but it's too subtle, I think, especially when you consider price-wise and theoretically performance-wise, you're going up against a DBX 707. I guess also a Cayenne Turbo GT, which is also kind of snore-looking. But yeah, it's just lost a bit of its personality. Where it's become better, it's lost a bit of its persona. And I think that could be said about this generation Range Rover Sport in general. It's just become a bit muddy. But this thing, yeah, it's the pick of the bunch by a mile. Problem is, supposedly, you can't buy one. And even if you could, would you want to? Because this car, I think it's like 185 grand. It starts supposedly at 171,000 pounds in the UK, but then you plus the carbon ceramics and the carbon wheels, which are like 7 grand each. Yeah, I mean, at that point, no. I don't know what the theoretical non-limited edition first edition, basically what the standard, because this is a first edition limited, what that will be priced at, but surely it's going to be like 150. Even then, supposedly all of these cars are sold out, but I do think if you called up your Range Rover dealer and begged them for a car, they might be able to find you one. But I think, I worry you'd be a little bit mad paying that much. It's a lot of money, isn't it? And whilst it has made the whole car better, I'm not sure I could swallow that price tag. Anyway, an hour and a half and 105 kilometers still to go to continue to enjoy this car. And boy, will I, because it's turned out, no matter what driving road, no matter what setting, no matter what kind of road, this car is fantastic. Well, I'm just about to arrive at the hotel where I'll be returning this car to the Range Rover team. I've got 1.4 kilometers to go. It's going to end up being a 600 kilometer round trip, not a 500 kilometer round trip, because I've done 597 kilometers to this point. Our average fuel consumption has ended up being 12.5 litres per 100 kilometers, which I think is like 18.5 mpg. So definitely brought our average down with the kind of brisker driving on the back roads. But thank God I did that, because, oh yeah, they're so much fun. And Portuguese countryside, it's just stunning. So it's been an amazing day, and I've genuinely really enjoyed this car. And I've been trying to think, like, what competes with it, because in my mind this is as close as you get to a near perfect daily in terms of being sporty, practical, got a great badge, loads of good infotainment, etc, etc. I think the M3 Touring is probably the closest competitor in my mind. Okay, maybe it's not quite as plush as this, but it's half the price. So yeah, I mean, this will be reserved for the wealthy. It's so annoying that they're all sold out, because I can't even beg Range Rover for a long-term loan of one. But I would happily have one. If I had the money, God, I'd happily have one. But if I wasn't considering the SV, I would still, yeah, skip past the standard Sport, sadly. That's how much better this thing is. It's all thanks to those 6D dynamics, the damper setup. Anyway, I'm waffling. let's finish it off. Thanks for joining me on this adventure. If you're ever in Lisbon, make sure to go and get one of those tarts, one of those Pastel de Natas, and I will see you again very soon. Bye bye.